He told me to step back because my back fat was ruining the company photo. The ballroom went silent. I smiled like I always had, like a good wife does. But inside me something finally cracked. This is the story of how I stopped disappearing and started fighting back. The Grand Hyatt ballroom sparkled under a sea of chandeliers full of suits, sequins, and sharp smiles. I stood near the edge, adjusting the black dress I'd bought on sale Nordstrom rack last season, and sipped my champagne. It was Nathan's company gala, the annual performance, where the men showed off their titles and their wives played accessory. And I was Eleanor Campbell. The wife no one remembered. Eleanor looking comfortable tonight, purred Melissa Richardson, the CFO's wife, her eyes sliding over my clearance rack dress. Hers was Valentino, probably worth 3 months of my salary. Nathan didn't miss the moment. Designer labels were never her thing, he said with a smirk. She's more practical. Laughter, polite, hollow, cruel. Not everyone in that circle had a soul. I smiled faintly. Not everyone needs to advertise their worth through a label. Nathan's smile sharpened. True. Some people have no worth to advertise. Louder laughter this time. My chest burned, but I smiled harder. 15 years of marriage had taught me how to look fine while crumbling. Then someone called for a group photo. I stepped beside Nathan. My place. Step back, Eleanor, he said loudly, waving me aside. You're blocking Melissa. No one wants your back fat in the newsletter. The air shifted. Some eyes looked away. Others didn't bother. The photographer lifted his camera. Everyone say, "Success." I didn't say anything. I just stood there, smiling, breaking. Later that night in our master bathroom, I took off my earrings in silence. The woman in the mirror looked like me but faded. Mom Olivia appeared at the door already in pajamas. You looked really pretty tonight. The tears rose fast. Not from Nathan's cruelty, but from her kindness. You look like a movie star, she said softly. Nathan walked by scoffing. That clearance rack thing? God, Eleanor, can't you find a dress that shows you have a waistline? Olivia's face darkened. She wanted to say something but didn't. She just went to her room. I stood there alone. 15 years of being chipped away by words dressed as jokes. 15 years of being erased. And for the first time, I whispered to the mirror, "No more." He mocked my college grades, said Olivia only got into Stanford because of him. Then he laughed like it was funny. And I realized I'd rather be broke and alone than married and erased. It was supposed to be a celebration. Olivia had just been accepted into an elite summer program at Stanford. A huge achievement. But the dinner table felt like a courtroom, and I was on trial. Nathan sat across from me, steak knife in hand, slicing through his meat like he did through my self-worth. Of course she got in, he said, smiling like a man who'd just been complimented. She inherited my academic aptitude. Thank God. Imagine if she'd taken after you. He chuckled. All those C's in college. What was your major again? Underwater basket weaving? His mother, Margaret, giggled politely. Nathan, be nice, she offered, as if that fixed anything. Nathan kept going. She barely maintains her little substitute gig. Parents probably request someone else. I mean, can you blame them? I looked at Olivia. Her fork moved slowly across her plate, eyes fixed on peas she wasn't eating. She looked tired. Not from school. From this. From him. And suddenly I knew. I wasn't going to let my daughter grow up thinking this was love. That this was normal. I put my fork down. I want a divorce. Silence. Nathan's fork hovered midair. Excuse me? He asked, voice lower than I'd ever heard it. I'm filing for divorce. I repeated, my hand steady, even though my heart thundered. He laughed, sharp, cruel. You're serious. You're blowing up your life because of a joke. No, I said. Because of 15 years of contempt. 15 years of being made small. His expression changed, less amused, more angry. Where do you think you'll go? He spat. You have nothing. No skills, no prospects. You'll be living in a studio eating ramen in a month. Margaret gasped. Eleanor, darling, think this through. Nathan is a good provider. I earned my master's while raising Olivia, I said, looking only at him. I've built a consulting business on the side. I have clients. I have savings. I don't need a provider. I need respect. You ungrateful, he started. And then Olivia spoke. I support Mom. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through him like a blade. You're horrible to her, Dad. You always have been. Nathan turned red. Everything you have, your school, your programs, your college fund, I pay for that. She looked him straight in the eye. I'd trade all of it to live somewhere peaceful. I reached under the table and squeezed her hand. My heart cracked and healed a little in the same moment. I stood up, placed my napkin on the table. I think that settles it. He said I'd be broke alone, forgotten. But the day I moved out with my daughter by my side, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Air in my lungs, and room to be. Me. 3 months after the dinner that ended it all, Olivia and I moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment across town. It wasn't fancy. No marble countertops. No doorman. No view of the city skyline Nathan always insisted on. But it was clean, bright, quiet. And it was ours. I stood by the window that first evening, watching the sunset melt into soft pinks and oranges. For the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel like I had to brace myself for a comment, a fight, a silence too sharp to touch. Mom, where do you want these books? Olivia's voice called from the living room, surrounded by cardboard and a half-eaten pizza. Wherever you think looks best, I said. She turned to look at me, really look, and smiled. You seem different, she said. Different how? I don't know. Like you're here now. Like you're not trying to disappear. That hit hard. Not in a painful way, but in a truthful way. Had I really been that absent? So busy shrinking myself to survive that, I'd nearly vanished. I crossed the room and pulled her into a hug. I'm working on being present, I whispered. No more disappearing. The divorce was messy. Nathan dragged it out, refusing to turn over financial records, arguing over every detail, treating it like a war to win. But I didn't flinch. My attorney, a steel-spined woman with a specialty in high-conflict cases, guided me through the battlefield. We made lists. We gathered evidence. We stayed calm. And while Nathan was busy being furious, I was building something new. My business. What had started as favors to other parents, helping them understand school options, was becoming real. Families were reaching out. Referrals were coming in. I worked from our dining table. I built a website with the help of one of Olivia's classmates who needed community service hours. I wrote marketing copy late at night with a cup of tea and a blanket across my lap. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. You're charging how much, she said. You're doing the work of 3 people. Triple your rates. I laughed because I didn't believe I was worth it. But deep down, I knew. She was right. I met Madison at a networking event for women entrepreneurs, though I almost didn't go. I didn't feel like an entrepreneur. I felt like a woman pretending to be one, juggling clients between school drop-offs and late-night emails. But Madison, she saw through all that. You're charging too little, she said, sipping her espresso like a woman who never questioned her own value. You're doing the job of a consultant, an advocate, and a counselor. Triple your rates. I nearly choked on my latte. Triple, no one's going to pay that. They already are, she said calmly. Just not to you. Her words settled into me like seeds, ones I wasn't ready to plant yet but couldn't ignore. That same week, I had a meeting at Preston Academy, the private school of private schools. Just walking through the doors felt like entering another world, polished brass brick archways and whispers of old money. The director, James Peterson, looked like he'd stepped out of an Ivy League yearbook. Bow tie, skeptical eyes. So he said, arms crossed. You're helping families get their kids into schools like ours. I help them find the right fit, I replied, steady. That's not always Preston. He raised an eyebrow. And what qualifies you to do that, Ms. Campbell? That Ms. mattered. I straightened my spine. Master's in Education Policy. 5 years in the classroom. 2 years building a consultancy. I've worked with families across public, private, and special needs settings. And I've seen what happens when students are placed in environments that dim their light. I looked him in the eye. I don't help kids get in. I help them land where they'll shine. He paused. Then he nodded. Most consultants promise access. You offer honesty. Before I left, he invited me to join an upcoming education panel. A real one. Not a favor, not a charity gesture an invitation earned. That afternoon, as I walked to my car, my phone buzzed. Nathan, heard you're playing consultant now. Cute hobby. When's the real job coming? 6 months ago, that would have wrecked me. Now, I just hit delete and kept walking. One email changed everything. A friend of a friend. A company I'd never heard of. We're looking for someone who understands kids. Turns out they were looking for me. It started with a referral. A client I had helped months ago, someone I'd almost forgotten, gave my name to her sister. Her sister happened to be the CEO of Tech Future, a major technology company looking to launch a foundation for underserved students. They're building something from scratch, the email said. They need someone who gets education. Someone who gets it. I told them to call you. I didn't expect much, but when I walked into that sleek glass building, sat down in front of a panel of 5 executives, and started speaking, I saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. People listening, really listening. I shared my philosophy: no one-size-fits-all solutions, no empty test prep, no promises of Ivy League, just to please parents. Just honest, practical, personalized pathways for students who've always felt left behind. When I finished, Daniel Harrison, the Chief Strategy Officer, looked at me and said, "That's exactly what we've been looking for." 2 days later, I got the offer. Executive Director of Educational Initiatives. Full autonomy, a team, a budget, a salary 3 times what I made as a teacher. I cried when I saw the number. Not because of the money, but because of what it meant. I was no longer surviving. I was building. When I told Olivia, she screamed, "You're going to change so many lives, Mom." That night, I updated my LinkedIn with my new title. A few minutes later, I got a notification. Nathan viewed your profile. I didn't feel spite or pride. I just smiled, closed the laptop, and went to bed. Over the next 2 years, everything grew. We launched scholarships, mentorships, new learning platforms. My work was published. I spoke at conferences. My name, my own name, was being associated with something that mattered. At a conference in San Francisco, I stood on stage sharing our latest research on educational equity. And then I saw him in the back of the ballroom. Nathan. Same suit, but it hung looser now. Same face, but the confidence had dimmed. Our eyes met, briefly. After the talk, he approached. "Eleanor," he said, softer than I'd ever heard him, "you look well." "Thank you," I replied. "I've been following the foundation. It's impressive." "Thank you," I said again. A beat passed. "Maybe we could get coffee while you're in town." I studied him. "I fly out tomorrow," I said. "My schedule's full." He nodded, but we both knew the truth. There would be no coffee. No catching up. No more us. Daniel found me a few minutes later, 2 glasses of champagne in hand. "Was that your ex?" he asked with a knowing smile. "Yes." "And how'd it go?" I exhaled. "I said no," I replied. Easily. Finally. 3 years ago, I stood in that ballroom and felt invisible. Tonight, I stood on the same stage, spotlight in my eyes, microphone in hand. Not as someone's wife, but as a woman who rebuilt her life from nothing. "Mom, your car's here." Olivia's voice floated up from downstairs. I took one last look in the mirror. Crimson dress. Perfect fit. Hair in soft waves. Eyes clear, steady. I almost didn't recognize her, this woman staring back at me. But she was me, and I was proud of her. Tonight was the Tech Future Gala. Our foundation was announcing a $50 million expansion, new schools, more scholarships, real change. And I was giving the keynote. As the car pulled up to the venue, I felt my breath hitch. It was the Grand Hyatt. That Grand Hyatt, where Nathan once humiliated me in front of his colleagues, where he'd reduced me to nothing but back fat and silence. But tonight, everything was different. The ballroom glowed, filled with educators, tech leaders, philanthropists. The air was alive with hope, not judgment. As I made my way through the crowd, I spotted Melissa Richardson, the same woman who once smirked at my dress. She did a double take, and then she looked away. I smiled. Daniel found me near the champagne fountain. Nervous, he asked, his hand light at my back. Not anymore, I said truthfully. I know what I need to say. When the spotlight hit, I walked on stage and spoke from the place I once hid. 3 years ago, I stood in this very room feeling worthless. I had been told again and again that I had no value, that I had no future. And for a while, I believed it. The room was silent, listening. But here's what I know now. When you stop seeing your worth, others do too. And when you start claiming it again, you shine. I took a breath. Our foundation is here to remind every forgotten student that their story isn't over, that their voice matters, and that their future is still theirs to build. I paused, looked out into the audience. Next year, with our new funding, we will reach over 100,000 more students. Thunderous applause. Not polite, not performative, real. I stepped down, heart pounding, not from fear, but from clarity. Near the back of the room, I saw Nathan. We locked eyes, and for the first time, I didn't feel anger or pain. I saw something else in his face, regret. But it wasn't my burden anymore. He came to me with desperation in his voice. The company was failing. He needed help, not love, not forgiveness, just access. And for the first time, I didn't flinch. I simply said, no. After the gala, I slipped away to the rooftop garden. The ballroom was buzzing with congratulations and clinking glasses, but I needed a moment. Above me, stars. Below me, the city. Inside me, quiet. There you are, Daniel said, finding me by the railing. Hiding from your admirers. I smiled, just breathing. You were incredible tonight, he said gently, though I expected nothing less. We stood there side by side in a silence that felt full, not empty. Then he said, I saw Nathan watching you. I nodded. He looked smaller. Daniel raised an eyebrow. I heard his company's in trouble, I said. Losing clients? Alienating investors? He asked, how does that make you feel? I thought about it and realized I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not anger, not revenge. Just freedom. Then came the knock at the door. Ms. Campbell. A staff member appeared hesitant. There's someone asking to speak with you. A Mr. Campbell. He says it's important. I glanced at Daniel. He didn't say a word, just gave me a quiet nod. I'll see him, I said. Nathan was waiting in a side conference room. Not in power, not in control. Just a man unraveling. Thank you for seeing me, he began. What do you need, Nathan? I asked calmly. He hesitated. Then he said the thing he never would have said 3 years ago. My company is struggling. I need investors, connections. Your foundation knows people. Maybe you could introduce me. I let the silence stretch. Then I said no. His face fell. Please, Eleanor, I know I treated you terribly. I was wrong, but you're in a position to help. That's the problem, I interrupted. You only see my value now because other people do. You didn't see me when it mattered. His posture collapsed. So you won't help me? I can't, I said, and I won't. He stared at the floor. I'm sorry about your company, but I have nothing to give you. I stood. Good night, Nathan. And I left him behind fully, finally. Daniel was waiting in the hallway. As we walked toward the elevator, he asked softly, You okay? I smiled. Yes, I said. Everything is exactly as it should be. That night, back in my downtown condo, I stepped onto the balcony. The city pulsed below, alive with light movement stories. My phone buzzed. A message from Olivia. So proud of you, Mom. You're changing the world. I stared at the words for a moment, then replied, just trying to become the woman I needed to meet years ago. I set the phone down, looked out into the night. Somewhere out there, Nathan was reckoning with his choices. Somewhere other women were whispering no more into their mirrors. And me? I was exactly where I belonged, standing in my own light, creating my own story, and finally free.